The rain had begun before dawn. It crept over the tumblestone in gray veils, misting the fields where half-harvested barley bowed beneath the weight of water, and it whispered through the black-leafed willows that lined the riverbank like mourners at an endless wake. By mid-morning, the sky was a vaulted iron lid, low enough that even the crows seemed afraid to fly. The world smelled of wet earth and rust and horses, and every bootfall sank half a finger deep into the sucking clay. Brienne of Tarth rode at the fore of the little column, long sodden hair plastered to her cheeks, sapphire and crane sigil hidden beneath a travel-stained cloak the color of peat. 12 riders followed, men sworn to Riverrun yet restless, now that Edmure Tully ruled behind stone walls, and Lady Catelyn Stark ventured south to trade prisoners for daughters. They were not ill-disposed toward Brienne, but neither did they quite trust her, the ugly maid of Tarth who wore Brightwater steel, and spoke with the blunt edge of a smith's hammer. She felt their eyes upon her back in every crunch of gravel, every snort of damp horses, and she tasted suspicion as keenly as she tasted the rain. Lady Stark rode in the middle ranks beneath a dark wool hood, her grief a second cloak no rain could soak through. Somewhere ahead, Jaime Lannister waited. Chained, perhaps no longer. In an abandoned mill by a bend in the Green Fork, a single exchange, the Kingslayer for Sansa and Arya, the daughters torn from Catelyn's arms when the war first turned bitter. Brienne had sworn by every god that Sansa and Arya would be returned. She had sworn by her honor that Lady Stark would be safe. Yet honor was a brittle shield in these days, and the Riverlands had grown teeth. They made camp late, when dusk draped the world in purple so deep they nearly bled to black. No fires. It was Lady Stark's command. Smoke climbed like signal beacons, and there were too many eyes in the hills. Brienne walked the perimeter thrice, stepping around sleeping men who muttered in dreams, then returned to where Lady Stark sat against a jut of limestone, hands hidden in the folds of her cloak. "You should rest, my lady," Brienne said. "Tomorrow will be long." Catelyn's eyes lifted. In their green depths, Brienne saw the reflection of a long, dim corridor. Winterfell's Godswood, a young boy climbing and falling, the ghost of a direwolf howling in a ruined tower. "How does a heart rest when half of it is missing?" she whispered. "Your girls live," Brienne answered, "and they will be returned." "Words," Catelyn murmured. "All the world is words now, oaths and boasts and empty songs. The real things, love, children, peace, those bleed out on hard ground while men argue banners." She closed her eyes as though the darkness behind her lids might shelter her from memory. "Still, I thank you, Brienne of Tarth. Without you, I would be lost." The words warmed Brienne more surely than any fire. She took the first watch with hand wrapped around the hilt of Oathkeeper, staring into trees that shifted like gray ghosts in the wind. Night deepened. Rain ceased. Fog crawled off the river in low coils. Once, a lone owl winged overhead. Once, she heard hooves in the distance, quick, then gone. She told herself it was only a deer startled by the scent of steel, but her fingers never loosened. Dawn came pale and listless. They broke camp in silence and rode through low valleys where ruined farmsteads crouched like broken knuckles. Smoke still drifted from one blackened shell. Someone's life turned to ash. By midday the Green Fork appeared, wide and sullen beneath the overcast. The mill stood on the far bank, a lopsided thing of weathered beams and sagging slate roof, mill wheel frozen stiff above the slow brown current. No banners flew. No sentry greeted them. Brienne felt her heartbeat mark each step her horse took down the bank. "Wait here," she ordered the escort. "I go first." "Alone?" asked Sir Desmond, the eldest of the Tully men. "Lady Stark's safety is my charge. If this is a trap, better one blade bleed than 13. She swung down, boots splashing mud, and crossed the narrow plank bridge toward the mill. Each board creaked beneath her weight. She counted them. 9 steps, then flagstone, then the warped wooden door. She knocked thrice with the pommel of her dagger. Silence answered. 4th knock, and the door yawned inward on a gust of raw river air. She entered. Dust motes swam in dim light from slitted shutters. Grain sacks rotted in a heap where mice had built kingdoms of chaff. Old blood stained the floor in an arc, cattle perhaps. But the dark pattern of it made her skin crawl. No chains, no Lannister, no guards. Yet something hung in the air like a breath held too long. Movement, a blur at the edge of sight. She whirled. Sword ringing free. Easy, wench. A voice low and rasping. Out of shadow stepped a man in mail patched with pink and red. The colors of Vargo Hota's brave companions. His beard was a mange of dirty clumps. His eyes 2 chips of amber glass. One woman, alone in a mill, could warm a man on a cold day, if the wench is willing. Brienne's blade spoke before her lips did. Steel flashed, a scream ripped. The Reaver's arm fell in a gout of arterial red. But steel spoke back. 2 more men lunged from behind pillars, axes raised. Brienne parried, pivoted, felt the air hiss as an axe head sliced a finger width from her cheek. She cut one across the knee, kicked the other's belly so hard ribs cracked. But a 4th shape leapt from the loft. Rope looped around her throat before she could turn. She staggered, choking, vision bubbling red. The first man, bleeding from the stump, laughed a wet laugh and raised his dagger. Outside, a horn sounded. The Tully men charging the bridge. Too late. Brienne dropped to one knee, grappling the rope, but the noose tightened. Blood thundered in her ears. The axe-cracked man staggered forward, swinging blind. The blade caught her shoulder. Pain roared white. She drove her sword backward, skewering the man behind, yet the noose only bit deeper. She tasted cloth and copper and river fog. Lady Stark, she thought, and the world tilted. When her eyes cleared, she lay on board, slick with rainwater and blood. The rope was slack now. The men dead or gone. But through a ragged gap in the shutter, she saw chaos on the bridge. Tully riders locked with 100 brave companions who spilled from the tree line, a tide of rusted helms and scavenged spears. And amid the clash of steel and screams, she saw Catelyn Stark, hood thrown back, auburn hair whipping, struggling against a brute who dragged her by the wrist toward the far bank. Brienne lurched upright, agony screaming down her arm. She could not lift Oathkeeper. She ripped a fallen spear from a dead man's grip and stumbled to the door. Rain burst across her face like shards of glass. The battle was a knot of bodies, mud, and slick crimson. Lady Stark fought, nails raking, but the brute only laughed, hauling her toward 2 more sellswords waiting with horses. "Lady Catelyn," Brienne bellowed. Her voice cracked like old timber, yet it cut through the din. Catelyn turned, eyes wide. A mailed fist struck the lady's temple. She sagged. The brute heaved her over a saddle. Brienne hurled the spear with all the strength pain had left her. Shaft blurred. Point flashed. But the weapon skidded off a shield and spun uselessly into the river. Then one of the sellswords raised a crossbow. Time wavered. Brienne could almost count the droplets sliding off the bowstring. She could almost hear each thud of her own heart. She willed her legs to move, to carry her forward. But they were carved of lead. The quarrel leapt, a small dark line against gray sky. It struck Catelyn Stark between the shoulder blades. Her body jerked like a marionette whose strings were severed. She slid from the horse into mud already red as autumn leaves. "No," Brienne whispered. "No, no, no." A second quarrel sang. Impact cracked her breastplate like an egg. She stumbled. Breath punched from her lungs, and crimson flowers blossomed across her vision. She tasted river water and smoke and tears. She felt the earth tilt again, and this time she could not rise. Voices blurred in and out, shouts, screams, the wet thunk of steel on flesh, boots splashing near her head. Someone knelt, fingers probing her throat for pulse. "Still breathing," a man muttered, accent thick with the stone of the north. "Get her up." "Leave her," spat another. "The wench failed. Lady Stark is dead. All for nothing." Boots retreated. Rain fell harder, drumming against her shattered armor. Brienne tried to move her lips, to say one last prayer, but even breath was a memory. She thought of Tarth's sunsets, of Renly's shadow on a tent wall. of Jaime Lannister's crooked smile as he said, "My lady, there are no men like me, only me." She thought of Sansa, sweet summer child, and Arya, wild as a wolf. She thought of her oath upon a quiet bridge beneath weeping willows, and how oaths could be broken not by treachery but by sharp iron and ill chance. Darkness pooled beneath her eyelids. She welcomed it like cool water on a burn. The rumor spread faster than plague. Lady Catelyn Stark slain on the banks of the Green Fork. Her champion Brienne of Tarth cut down beside her. By the time ravens reached Riverrun, Riverlords spoke the tale in taverns and in trenches both. Blackfish Tully clenched his teeth so hard the maester swore they cracked. Robb Stark, king in the north, tore the message in half and burned the pieces in his brazier, though the ashes gave him no comfort. And in the dungeons of Harrenhal, Vargo Hoat licked his lips and dreamed of ransom less than sweet. Yet the true echo of that day's slaughter rang far beyond walls of stone or crowns of iron. It rang in the halls of kings and the nightmares of common folk. It altered the weave of a war already frayed. For a mother's hope had died in mud and rain, and with it something bright in the hearts of men who followed the direwolf banners. In the veil of dark paths where the gods weave mortal fates, one thread snapped, others shuddered, frayed, entwined anew, and somewhere, in chill corridors where ghosts walked, eyes long blind opened, and remembered. Continues at your next prompt. Okay. The tumblestone ran thick with silt when the outriders returned to Riverrun bearing the bodies. Summer's fading sun spilled bronze on the battlements, but inside the castle walls dusk had already fallen. Grief made light itself retreat. Men-at-arms hoisted Lady Catelyn's bier through the gatehouse, with the reverence one might grant a saint's reliquary, yet hardly an eye remained dry. Her auburn hair, forever famed, was matted now with mud and congealed blood, a single quarrel head still protruding beneath the left shoulder blade, where the maester had dared not wrench it free. Behind her, 4 silent Tully veterans bore Brienne of Tarth upon a litter. Only the faint rise of the wench's chest proved life clung yet. The breastplate lay shattered where a quarrel had punched through steel and mail to carve a crimson bloom above her heart. Each step jostled the shards, and each jolt drew an involuntary rasp from cracked lips. Lord Edmure met them in the yard. He knelt, first beside his sister, palm trembling above her brow, then beside Brienne, whose eyelids fluttered like moth wings when his shadow dimmed the failing light. "Hold," she croaked, so softly Edmure wondered if sorrow had conjured the sound. "My oath." Then she fell inward to darkness again. Word sped north with the ravens. At Old Stones, where King Robb Stark held council among fallen granite kings, a courier arrived panting beneath spears of twilight. Robb read the parchment once, twice, then crushed it in a fist clad in black leather. For a span of heartbeats no one dared speak. Grey Wind, sensing grief, whined and pressed his muzzle to his master's thigh. "My mother is dead," Robb said at last. The words rang like a knell across the ancient ruins. "And the woman who swore to guard her lies at the stranger's door." Grey John Umber's sword grated half free of its scabbard before he remembered himself. "Red wedding of a different sort, my lord. Vargo Hoat will choke on his own tongue before I'm done." Roose Bolton's pale eyes flicked toward the Umber Lord, unreadable as ever. "Hoat takes coin where it's offered. Today the goat bleats for Lannisters. Tomorrow, perhaps for Freys. The question is not vengeance, but victory. Without Lady Catelyn, Riverrun may falter. Rivermen fight best for hearth and kin. Take away the hearth. Leave only ashes. Betty." The king's fist opened. The parchment floated to the flagstones, blood brown in the dying light. "We march at first light. Riverrun must stand." He looked toward the west where the moon crawled above jagged walls. "And Hoat must pay." Far south, within the twisting walls of Harrenhal, Vargo Hoat sat cross-legged on a dais made of pilfered chairs, while his captains squabbled below. The goat gnawed salted horseflesh between gapped teeth and let the clamor wash over him like midsummer rain. Brienne the wench had been seen on a litter bound for Riverrun, breathing still. The king's lair was again whale-fat in Lannister safekeeping, and a purse of minted lions now bulged beneath Hoat's bed of straw. All in all, A tidy day. Yet his maester, for Harrenhal had maesters the way corpses had flies, delivered darker tidings. Edmure would demand blood Wergild, the Stark's vengeance. The maester spoke of Tully honor and northern wrath, but such words skittered off Hoat's mind like hail on helm iron. Riverrun's lords might march, yet the goat-possessed ramparts black and tall as nighttime, hosts of sellswords hungry as weasels, and a secret to slit kingdoms wide. In chains below, in a tower cell thick with the stink of straw and stale sweat, Lady Sansa Stark wept. She believed herself exchanged. So said his riders. She would learn otherwise soon enough. A valuable chick, the older lion had promised. Keep her safe. Send claws if the Wolf King approached. Hoat ran a tongue along cracked lips and tasted the gold to come. The southern winds reached King's Landing with whispered tales before ravens ever brushed the battlements. In the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion Lannister paused over a map bristling with painted pins when Podrick Payne announced a messenger from Harrenhal. The scroll bore the crenellated sigil of House Hoat, but the wax was Lannister crimson. Tyrion broke the seal, read in silence, then dismissed Podrick with a curt wave. Sansa Stark alive, he mused. His once wife, pawn of too many masters. Her mother slain. Her sworn shield dying. Tywin's fingers reached further than even Casterly Rock's minds plumbed. Yet, to what end? A hostage's value lay in the living who loved her. Catelyn dead. Robb enraged. Arya vanished. Only Winterfell's stones still cared for the girl. And stones paid no ransom. He poured a cup of summer wine, but the taste soured on his tongue. Father moves pieces faster than I can count squares. If Sansa dies in Hoat's care, the blame might yet fall upon me. And Brienne, gods. The woman saved my life more than once on roads both wild and royal. To let her fade without aid felt a debt unpaid. Tyrion summoned Podrick anew. Send word in cipher to Bronn on the Blackwater. A courier to Riverrun, fastest horse, with a draught of poppy and salve enough for a boar speared thrice. Sign the letter Q, then fetch me vellum and a bottle stronger than sentiment. At Riverrun, the days merged like candle wax beneath a hot flame. Maester Vyman bled Brienne thrice, drained black corruption from the wound, stitched the torn flesh with catgut until his fingers cramped. Fever raged still. She drifted in and out of dreams, of blue pearl seas beating upon Tarth's cliffs, of Renly crowned in jade light beneath a shadow's kiss, of Catelyn's voice calling through rain, "Forgive, forgive." Forgive. Each time she woke, the world was smaller. Stone walls. Edmure visited nightly, guilt writ stark across his freckled face, but words failed him. He left flowers once, winter roses from Riverrun's crumbling septodoi. They wilted by dawn. On the 7th day the fever broke. Brienne's eyes opened to a haze of late afternoon gold. Vyman hovered like a gaunt heron, smiling at last. "You return to us, my lady." "Lady? No." Her voice rasped dry as parchment. "Did I keep my oath?" The maester's smile slipped. "You fought as 10 men would not. No more could be asked." Her head turned, joints protesting. Beside her pallet lay Catelyn Stark's cloak folded neat, the fabric torn where quarrel had passed. A brooch of silverfish pinned the fold, glinting in light that did not warm. Brienne shut her eyes. Tears leaked down temples to nestle in strawed-out hue. That night, Edmure sat by her bedside, candles guttering low. "The Northmen ride south," he told her. "Robb means to break the goat upon Harrenhal's anvil. Sir Brynden commands Riverrun. I march at sunrise beside him. You seek vengeance." He pressed the heel of his hand to his brow. "I seek to mend what was torn. My sister deserved more." Brienne tested breath against ribs bound tight with linen. Pain gripped, but did not rule. "Take me with you." A half laugh, half sob escaped him. "You cannot sit a horse. I will crawl if need be." She levered onto an elbow. Agony flared, yet did not conquer. Lady Catelyn is dead because I failed. My place is where the debt may yet be paid. Edmure's eyes shone. He took her hand, not the dainty clasp of courtiers, but the firm grip of brothers in arms. At dawn then, the gods witness us both. Dawn bled crimson when Riverlands' gates yawned wide for the host of the Tullys. Great garrons stamped and snorted as banners unfurled, leaping trout, roaring bears, the mailed fists of Blackwood, and the wheel tower of Vance. Brienne rode among the rear guard astride a placid roan gelding, whose gait jarred every stitched sinew. Oathkeeper lay across her thighs. Each league it grew heavier, as though the blade felt shame. She welcomed the weight. Past the ruined septry of Stony Septi, they joined Robb at the head of 20,000 wolves and trouts. The king's cloak streamed black and white behind him, Grey Wind pacing huge and silent by his stirrup. When Robb beheld Brienne, he started, grief flickering to relief, then back to tempered steel. "Tarth's maiden stands yet," he said. "The foe will learn tonight that broken oaths cut like broken swords." They struck at dusk. Harrenhal's towers rose like fingers of a charred hand clutching a blood-red moon. Fires burned upon the battlements. Hoat's men drunk on fear and false courage. Rams thundered at the main gate, while ladders sprang up along molten walls, where dragonflame had melted stone centuries past. Brienne scaled beside the Blackfish. Shield locked with his in the press. Arrows hissed. Stones crashed, yet foothold by foothold the ladder rose. At the parapet, a cragman swung an iron flail. Brienne ducked, rammed oak shield into gut, sent man and weapon screaming into dark. She vaulted the crenellation, blade flaring blue, cleaving through a sellsword's collarbone. Hoat's ranks wavered. Somewhere within the labyrinthine keep, Sansa Stark screamed. The sound carried, a thread of silver despair weaving through clamor. Brienne's heart seized. She charged, carving a corridor of death. Down spiral stair where melted stone sagged like candle wax, through a hall of toppled suits of armor whose visors gaped like laughing skulls. The cries grew louder. She burst into a courtyard. Night torches ringed the space. At its center, Vargo Hoat gripped Sansa by her braid. Jagged dirk pressed to throat. Blood trickled where point pricked porcelain skin. The girl's blue eyes brimmed with terror, yet she did not beg. Hoat's gaze fixed on Brienne. "The wench crawls from grave to haunt me. Come then. Die again." Brienne advanced. Silent. Her sword gleamed, his dirk wavered. Around them, Sellswords backed away, for no purse-balanced slaughter between champions of grief. "Drop blade," Hoat hissed, "or the wolf cub bleeds." Sansa's gaze met Brienne's across torchlit gloom. Some unspoken plea passed. Trust or mercy, Brienne could not tell. She slid Oathkeeper tip to stone. Hoat's grin widened, broken teeth catching firelight. Then Brienne hurled herself forward. Hoat had no time to shift grip. Her shoulder struck Sansa's ribs, driving the girl aside as dirk arced harmless. Brienne's left hand seized Hoat's wrist. Her right snatched dagger from belt and plunged up beneath ribcage. Cartilage parted with a meat packer's pop-dot-dot. Warm viscera spilled across gauntlet. Hoat gurgled, spittle frothing. He clawed her face, gouged cheek, but strength bled with life. Brienne twisted, wrenched steel free, and the goat collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. Silence swallowed the yard. Sellswords stared, entranced by death's suddenness. Brienne retrieved Oathkeeper, crimson dripping. "Choose life," she told the men, voice a drumbeat. "Throw down arms and kneel, or follow your master to hell." Blades clanged upon cobble one by one. Sansa stood trembling, palm pressed to throat where blood welled. Brienne tore linen from tunic, wrapped wound. Murmured comforts half remembered from Tarth's green hills. The girl shook her head. "My mother?" Tears stung, but Brienne spoke truth. Sansa sagged, yet did not shatter. "Then we stand for her," she whispered. Grey Wind bounded into the yard, muzzle dark with gore, Robb Stark at his heels. He beheld sister alive, Brienne blood-soaked but upright, Hote slack-jawed in death. For a heartbeat, the king was only a boy again. Relief, sorrow, wonder mingling. He crossed the yard, drew Sansa into arms, whispered something lost to wind. Brienne knelt, forehead to stone. "Forgive my failure, your grace." Robb's hand clasped her shoulder. "You kept faith better than any. Rise a knight of the direwolf. Henceforth you are sworn shield to House Stark, if such pledge still holds your honor." Honor, ... The word filled her lungs like spring air on salt cliffs. She rose, sword kissed, across mailed breast. "My life for the pack." Winterfell's godswood knew secrets older than names. Beneath the heart tree blanketed in fresh falling leaves of scarlet, Bran Stark dreamt of ravens. He saw a mill standing silent by a river, blood-soaking planks. He saw a rain-soaked road where a red-haired woman's body rocked upon a horse's saddle, eyes unseeing. He saw a maid in sapphire armor kneel dripping blood before his brother, vow echoing across time. The old gods whispered in leaf tongues, "What is dead may walk again, if the wolf howls loud enough." Far to the south, in the bowels of Bolton-held Dreadfort where secrets nested like rats, Maester Qyburn stitched a corpse. The skin had turned the gray-blue of deep winter lakes, lips black, hair tangled with dried mud. But blood, fresh drawn from living thralls, pumped through veins at Qyburn's coaxing. And in the hollow breast, he set a heart of weirwood chips soaked in wildfire seed. "A mother's wrath," he muttered, threading wire fine as spider silk through tendon and bone. "The river will run red anew." Outside the stone walls, Robb Stark's banners streamed northward, Sansa Stark at his side, Brienne behind them, scarred yet unbroken. They did not know a dead woman stirred beneath candlelight miles distant, did not see pale hands twitch. They carried hope and vengeance both, as all good tales demand. The wheel of ice and fire turned. Threads rent began to weave again. Direwolf, trout, maid, and crimson queen that might yet rise. Above the turning, ravens wheeled in a sky the color of old iron, and somewhere the strangers smiled at debts left unpaid. The road home would be long. But in that wind-torn midnight, when campfires guttered and men dreamed of hearths lost, Brienne of Tarth sat sharpening Oathkeeper beneath a moon just shy of full. Each stroke kissed steel. Each spark danced away like the ghosts of promises. She thought of a mother's laugh silenced by quarrel, of a vow reborn in blood, and of a girl who yet might seek justice upon Winterfell's ancient walls. Pain throbbed beneath bandage, but pain was a small thing. The debt was larger. When dawn cracked the horizon, casts of pale gold burst upon her blade, and in its mirror she glimpsed her own eyes clear for the first time since rain first fell upon the green fork. "Oath kept," voice within murmured. "Oath yet kept." And far beyond camp's boundary, beyond the ken of mortal ears, a single direwolf howled, not for mourning nor for dread, but for the long road still to run. The night before the column broke camp for the neck, a hush settled over the ruins of Harrenhal that even wolves seemed loath to disturb. Campfires guttered like dying stars between tumbled black walls. Somewhere in the labyrinth, water dripped in slow, solitary beats, an hourglass counting down to the next grief. Brienne of Tarth sat alone on a fallen archstone beside the outer ward, running a whetstone the length of Oathkeeper. Sparks winked, vanished. Each stroke steadied her breath, the rhythm muffling the low moans of the wounded, the distant clash of Robb smiths hammering bent mail back to use. Across the yard, Sansa Stark paced the perimeter beneath a dusk blue cloak, 2 sizes too large, borrowed from Sir Bryndon's stores. She paused at every pile of corpses, lips moving in silent prayer, until the sentries urged her on. No tears. Sansa had shed them all in the hours after her rescue, until eyes reddened to raw garnet. Now she walked as though memory were a cliff edge, and only constant motion kept her from tumbling into black. When she reached Brienne, the girl halted, gaze drawn to the sword's gleam the way a moth seeks flame. "Sir," she said. Old habit. She caught herself. Lady Brienne. May I speak? Brienne laid steel across her knees. You need never ask. Sit. If you will. Sansa settled on the stone, folding cloak beneath. I cannot close my eyes, she confessed. Every time I do, I feel his knife at my throat again. I smell his breath, taste the copper of my own blood. Her hands twisted together until knuckles whitened. Is something wrong with me, that fear will not loosen its claws? Nothing, Brienne answered. Fear kept you alive where many stronger fell. You endured. Sansa's gaze slid to the blade. Will you teach me? Not court ways. I will not be helpless again. Voice trembled, but did not crack. Brienne studied the slim wrists, the fragile elegance that once charmed half the realm's bards. Steel is heavy, she warned. It kills what innocence remains. Innocence died on the tumblestone. Sansa said softly, teach me to bury it. So Brienne agreed, and that night beneath a moon blurred by high thin clouds, the first lesson began. Footwork only. Shifting weight, balance. The dance none but swordsmen know. Sansa stumbled often yet rose each time, hair clinging to sweat-damp cheeks. By the final cadence she moved with a tentative grace, winter rose petals drifting on unseen winds. Brienne watched, pride mingled with sorrow. In another world Sansa would have danced in Riverlands' great hall, petals woven in hair, laughter bright. But the river ran red, petals fluttered atop water, and war reshaped girls into iron. And at dawn the host marched. Scouts rode north to clear the King's Road, gray mist curling around fetlocks. Behind them tramped pikemen in double columns. Shields rim to rim, banners snapping overhead. The direwolf of Stark, the leaping trout of Tully, the mailed fist of House Karstark freshly pledged anew. Sansa rode beside Robb on a chestnut mare, cloak hood shadowing her face. Brienne took position just aft of the king's standard, eyes ceaseless on tree line and sky both. For 3 days the land lay silent, save for coin clink of harness and distant cries of carrion jays. Villages they passed wore the hollow look of famine. Shutters nailed shut, wells choked with algae, gardens ravaged by foraging sellswards months before. The small folk emerged as the army passed, thin as reeds, bowing to Robb yet offering no cheer. War had taught them hope was a coin spent once only. The king distributed barley, salt fish, even a dozen scrawny goats, but gratitude looked brittle in faces starved of trust. On the 4th day, they reached the Green Fork's upper crossings. Spring floods had scoured both banks, uprooting willows to litter the shallows like broken siege towers. Engineers labored by torchlight to lash planks into crude pontoons, while outriders reported Lannister patrols mere leagues west. Thunder muttered across far horizons. Storm scent rode rising wind. That night, Robb convened his war council beneath a patched red pavilion staked on high ground above the river. Brienne stood sentinel at the entrance flap, helm under arm, listening while lords hashed strategy inside. Great John Umber wanted a quick thrust at Maidenpool to cut the gold road. Gut their belly, leave their head swimmin', he rumbled. Roose Bolton recommended caution. A feint to draw Tywin south, then a march on the twins before the Freys recovered nerve. We hold hostages precious to old Walder, he reminded. Sir Brynden urged striking the twins first. Our rear must be secure or we fight with knives at our backs. Voices rose until only thunder overlapped. Through canvas Brienne caught Sansa's softer timbre. If we march on the twins, Lord Walder will demand new concessions. He trusted my mother, and she is gone. He will see weakness. Robb answered wearily. He will see strength in the host before his walls. Bolton's reply drifted, silken. Strength invites betrayal when advantage is small. Better gold and promises hold the bridge than swords. The council ended at moonrise without accord. Lords dispersed muttering, their shadows long against tent lanterns. Robb lingered, head bowed. Brienne heard the sigh that escaped him. Sound of crowns grown heavier than steel. She stepped inside. Saluted. Your Grace. He glanced up. Worry lines etched deeper each march. Lady Brienne, I've kept you from rest. My rest walks behind your safety. A ghost of smile. My mother chose wisely. He paced between campaign tables cluttered with carved riverstone markers. Tell me, if you stood in my place, what road would you take? Brienne considered map and memory both. First secure the twins, she said. But not with bribes alone. Go yourself under guest right, bring Sansa. Walder Frey values lineage near as gold. Offer the Lady of Winterfell's hand to whichever son he names. She saw shock flicker. She would refuse, I know. Yet a promise sets Walder on your side long enough to cross. Once north of the neck, vows can be renegotiated. Robb's brows knit. You speak of breaking faith. I speak of surviving a war one treacherous bridge at a time. He sank onto a camp stool. My own vows were broken when I wed Jean. The confession tasted of iron. How many more must I shatter to win? As many as the Lannisters shatter daily, Brienne replied. Then softer. Victory is seldom clean. Robb rubbed temples. You and I bear different wounds, yet I trust your counsel. Sleep if you can, my lady. Tomorrow we ride for the twins. And no why. They broke camp at first light. Vanguard spearing north with river fog curling about hooves. Clouds banked like war galleons overhead. Thunder booming across flatlands. Rain lashed by noon. Mud turned the wagon train into a crawling beast whose tail lagged miles behind head. Supply carts mired axle deep. By late afternoon, scouts galloped back. A Frey outrider party ahead bearing white banner of truce. Robb ordered halt on a rise crowned by lightning-shattered elm. The Frey envoy, a sharp-bearded youth named Aenys, approached under wary northern eyes. Lord Walder bids King Robb welcome, he announced in high nasal tones. The bridge is open, the wedding feast prepared. His lordship requests assurance no harm shall befall Frey holdings. Gray eyes flicked to Sansa. He expects recompense for insults past. Robb dismounted, mud-splattered mail dull in gusty twilight. Tell Lord Walder we come as guests beneath his roof, with gifts and songs, and mean no bloodshed. The wheel of war turns swift. Courts may smooth the ruts. Formal words, yet Brienne saw tension knot shoulders. Aenys bowed, cloak soaked through. His lordship will feast you 3 days hence. Bring your bride. He nodded toward Lady Sansa. And sweeten old spirits. As envoy wheeled horse, Brienne stepped to Robb's side. You will not give Sansa away. She warned low. Robb's jaw tightened. Never. Then, a sigh. But Walder need not know my heart until vows are called. Stormlight flashed white on distant towers of the twins, as dusk bled over marshes like spilled ink. Ravens took wing from tree hollows, wheeling toward turrets barren of joy. Under. That night, in a tent shared for warmth, Sansa knelt on folded bedding before Brienne. Outside, rain drummed canvas until every thread hummed. You asked the king to promise my hand, Sansa stated, voice calm as morning frost. I asked him to survive, Brienne returned. Walder will demand hostages. Better a promise than your life. Now. Sansa traced the faint scab at her throat. I vowed never again to be pawn. If I yield, I break that vow. Brienne reached, clasped the slim fingers. A ranger bends branch so it will not snap in storm. We bend now to rise later. For long moments only rain spoke. Then Sansa inhaled. Teach me more. So in narrow space they practiced silent escapes, wrist twists, heel pivots, soft step strikes, until lamps waned and thunder rolled off northbound clouds. And before dawn horns sounded, sentries reported Bolton's scouts returning with news. Tywin's outriders probing for the king's host along the western tributaries. The lion hunts our flanks, Bolton warned in council. Delay at the twins invites encirclement. Robb countermanded. They would ride light to the bridge ahead, leave bulk of host to follow under Great John. Bolton, Blackwood, and Brienne would accompany Edmure to guard supply trains. On the second morning, they sighted the twins. Two squat castles of whitewashed stone straddling the Green Fork, banners of pale blue hoisted high. The drawbridge was lowered, but spear lines bristled along walls. Flayed man pennants snapped among trout and deer wolves. Bolton's men quartered within already, courtesy of fray negotiation. Brienne's unease sharpened. She spurred across the causeway shielding Sansa's flank, eyes scanning cross slits. Every rustle in crenel gaps looked like bowstrings kiss. In the muddy courtyard, Walder Frey awaited upon a high-backed chair, draped in sable fur. Though air hung warm, his seamed face crumpled about watery eyes that glittered with mischief. Sons and grandsons stood ranked behind. Wendell broad as butcher's ox, Black Walder lean and watchful, Ryman with wine stain at lapel. Daughters and granddaughters flanked the hall in faded silks like wilted flowers pinned to a corpse. Walder rose with effort. "King who wolves," he croaked. "And stark girl once promised to my brood, returned as consolation prize. You leave trail of broken vows, boy." Robb knelt per custom, though lips thinned. "I return to mend. Though Queen Jane holds my heart. House Stark offers alliance through my cousin, Lady Sansa. I petition your wisdom to name a fray worthy of her favor." Bah! Gasps rippled. Sansa stiffened, but bowed head. Brienne laid hand to pommel. Walder cackled. "A king's cousin lesser than king's bride, yet better than no bride. I shall think." He snapped gnarled fingers. "For now, eat. Dance. A man's belly rules quicker than heart." Music struck, thin reeds piping a merry reel. Servants brought trenchers of bread, pies pink with trout, jugs of ale sour as Frey humor. Brienne took seat near dais, back to wall. Robb toasted, forced cheer. Sansa sipped water only. Black Walder eyed her like butcher sizing tender cuts. As dancers spun, Roose Bolton excused himself, citing wound dressing. Brienne tracked his retreat, unease coiling. In hall's din she noted men in Bolton colors sliding to exits, guarding thresholds. A breeze slipped through arrow slits carrying scent of damp straw and fresh-oiled crossbows. Then music ceased on sour note. Walder rose again, voice carrying. "My guests, short matter before dessert. His Grace has made generous offer." He paused, tongue wetting lips. "But the debt weighs uneven." Doors slammed. Iron bars dropped. Brienne surged up, but 5 quarrels snapped toward dais. One struck Robb in breast. 2 thudded into Great Joan's arm and neck. Others buried in bannermen. Screams erupted. Brienne flung Sansa behind overturned trestle as Frey men-at-arms charged. She met them, Oathkeeper blue in torchlight, parried a halberd thrust, riposted through gullet. Blood sprayed sweet wine on rushes. Across hall Robb struggled to draw sword. Second quarrel punching thigh. Grey wind's howl rose beyond barred stables, cut short by pike points. Sansa crawled under tables toward dais. Brienne backed. Shield raised. Herded girl toward wooden door recessed in stone. "Go," she panted. South corridor to kitchens, then stables. A mace-hammered shield, numbed arm. She shoulder-checked foe. Split helm. "Find horse. Ride." "What of you?" "I follow." Liar to save her. Sansa vanished into gloom. Now the hall became butcher's block. Great John roared, blade cleaving a Frey skull before 3 spears pierced belly. He fell, guts unspooling. Black Walder lunged at Robb, sword point aimed where quarrel lodged. Brienne intercepted, steel ringing sparks, angling parry into counter that sheared ear from skull. Pain maddened him. He stabbed wild, nicked her cheek. Brienne sidestepped. Toe caught Rush's slick. Weight shifted. Still she turned, pommel smashing temple. Black Walder crumpled, teeth spraying red pearls. Across dais Walder Frey cackled behind shield of grandsons. "The North remembers broken bread, does it?" Robb staggered forward, blood flooding cloak. "Mercy," he rasped. Walder's eyes narrowed. "Mercy is for guests who keep vows." He gestured. Lane Lothar advanced, shortsword steady, ran Robb through below sternum. Direwolf banner toppled. The young wolf fell atop it, eyes turned north as though still chasing summer snows. Time slowed, sound muffled. Brienne's lungs burned ice. She carved a path toward King's corpse, blades crashing, blood raining, but more frays flooded hall. For each she felled, 2 stepped over bodies. A pike butt smashed her wounded shoulder. Blackness edged vision. Someone caught her sword arm, twisted till gauntlet plates cracked. Oathkeeper clanged from numb fingers. "Hold the wench," a voice barked. "Lord Roose wants her breathing." Bolton. She thought, betrayal stinking like lie. Then pummel struck skull. Darkness swallowed everything. Then she woke in torchlit gloom, bound upright to rough cedar post. Her head pulsed, mouth tasted copper. Around she saw a cellar, barrel racks lining damp walls, racks now holding corpses of stark men hung by ankles, throats smiling second mouths. Fray guards played dice nearby, laughter wet. Footsteps descended. Roose Bolton entered clad in polished plate, pink cloak trimmed sable. His eyes, pale, depthless pools, regarded her as man might a horse for purchase. "Lady Brienne, or shall I call you Oathbreaker?" he asked mildly. She spat blood. "I keep vows," she snarled. Unlike serpents in manskin, Roose accepted goblet from squire. Serpent? No. Merely survivor. When wolves bear fangs at lions, other beasts choose safe dens. He paced. "You wield influence. Tarth's Isle may hold value. Swear fealty to House Bolton. Bend the knee to new Warden of the North, and you may live." Brienne laughed. Raw. Ragged. "I have knee for wolves only. Yours I give steel." "Ma'am?" Bolton sighed. "Disappointing. Yet your death is unnecessary. Useful hostages outweigh useful corpses." He nodded to guard. A blow struck Brienne's stomach, knocking breath. Shackles were unlocked. Wrists rebound. Bolton signaled. 2 men lifted her, half drag, half carry, up winding stair to courtyard where storm still raged. Wagons lined cobbles, cages lashed atop. In one, Sansa knelt chained, cloak gone, hair dark with rain. She met Brienne's gaze. Fear, yet ember of fight within. Bolton oversaw loading. "To the Dreadfort," he ordered. "Lord Frey holds the river, I hold the north. The Lannisters will bless our diligence." Lightning split sky, revealing yard awash in blood. Above gatehouse, wolf banner burned, embers spiraling like red snow. "Gun? Pow." Far away in shadowed crypt beneath Dreadfort, Qyburn's corpse stirred. Stitching completed. Green flame guttered in lanterns soaked with wildfire solution. Sparks danced in jelly glow across pallid flesh. The maester whispered incantations, half prayer, half blasphemy, pressing leeches fat on corpse temples. "Rise, lady," he coaxed. "The world robbed you. Reclaim." Eyes shot open, green, clouded with rot, yet alight with something fiercer than life. Lips split, exhaled sound between hiss and growl. Qyburn smiled thin. "Welcome back, Lady Caitlin." "Oh." Atop pine-hewn palisade of Moat Cailin, ravens arrived dripping midnight on sentry pikes. They bore no scrolls. They bore doom. The garrison's maester cracked wax, red in driving rain. Robb Stark slain, northern host broken. Bolton claims lordship. Frey Sealneck. Command to surrender the ruined fortress in Bolton's name. Shieldbearers looked north where frost-tinged winds howled, then south where no banners friendly flew. Among them, iron-born prisoners rattled chains, eyes gleaming. The maester swallowed. And within King's Landing, news reached the Red Keep with dawn's first bells. Tyrion found his father in the solar overlooking Blackwater Bay. Scroll spread on desk of weirwood. Tywin's immutable face twitched by fraction. Smile or tremor none could say. Roose Bolton names himself warden, he said. The war ends. Tyrion stared at ink pooling around words. Young wolf dead. He saw hall where crossbows sang. A bride who would never waltz. His stomach clenched. Ends? Wars breed new wars. The North bleeds, but does not forget. Tywin tapped scroll. Memory ends at blade's edge. We shall salt the wound with coin, thread, time. But eyes flicked, uneasy. He knew ghosts older than Stark's, stirred beyond wall of snow. Tyrion poured wine though dawn glared unforgiving. And Lady Sansa? He asked. Bolton holds her. A wolf on his leash. And no. Tyrion's hand tightened on goblet until crack spidered glass. Leashes break, he murmured, too low for father to note. Now. North of the neck, Winterfell's courtyards lay half-ruined by ironborn torches months prior, yet candles glowed again beneath new-hung banners. Flayed man beside direwolf impaled. Ramsay Snow, Bolton's bastard, presided over reconstruction, cruelty sharpening his grin. He read Raven report of Robb's fall, then danced among cinders humming tune of Barrel Rollbear. Now the winter maid comes home bound in chains, he sang. And bastards rise to lordship. His hounds howled hungry. And now wander ready. It. In cages bumping along muddy track toward Dreadfort, Brienne counted footfalls by wagon's sway, marked guard rotations, studied bolt clasps with soldier's eye. At dusk on the 5th day, when convoy crossed deep ravines spanned by rotting plank bridge, she murmured to Sansa a single word. Ready? Bolts sprang beneath her fingertips. Strength born of vengeance prying iron loose. She wrenched chain free. Swung cuffs into guard's jaw, bone crunching. Sansa grabbed fallen dagger. Slashed rope binding cage bars, gap wide for slip of willow-thin body. She jumped, landing on mud slope, vanished into bracken. Brienne dove after, shoulders screaming as hillside gave. Arrows thrummed overhead, guards shouted. She crashed through reeds into dark water, surface choking. Sansa paddled near, eyes wild. They crawled along streamed under fir roots until shouts faded. Wet, bleeding, they huddled in hollow trunk until moon rode high, then set north on foot, direction guided by moss and twin hearts beating fear into courage. Behind them, Bolton's courier rode hard. Prisoners escaped. Ramsay raged, unleashed hounds. Ahead lay haunted barrows, watchers on night sun plains, allies unknown. Somewhere the resurrected Lady of Riverlands gathered brotherhood for bloody prayers. Somewhere a crow-eyed boy in Winterfell's broken tower dreamed of wings. Brienne and Sansa pressed on, footfalls stitching a road of retribution. In frost-rimed dark, they forged bond of wolf and shield maiden, vow stronger than steel, to bring justice where oaths lay murdered. Every dawn they woke colder, hungrier, yet eyes burned brighter. Storm crows spun overhead. Distant thunder muttered like memory of drums in Hall of Fallen Kings. The song of ice and fire had lost a verse, gained another. And the north, betrayed, began to rumble beneath snows. Anain? 30 leagues south. At inn called the Crossed Stag. A cloaked traveler warmed hands by hearth. Alewife bent close, whispering rumor of Frey treachery. The traveler removed hood, revealing bald scalp, etched by swirling tattoos. Thoros of Myr, priest of Red God. He murmured prayer, wine steaming. The Lord's fire revives more than flesh, he said, eyes reflecting flame. It rekindles war's thought doused. He drained cup, rose. Outside, shadows shifted, men and women in ragged mail, banners stitched of patchwork. At their head rode a corpse-pale woman with trench of red across throat, cloak billowing like blood-dark river. Her eyes glowed green as drowned moonlight. Thoros knelt. Lady Stoneheart. Frey crimes multiply. Caitlyn's voice scraped rusted iron. "Fetch me Frey blood," she commanded, then gaze turned north. "And Bolton, Hyde's child of mine. We ride. Dan. Endo." By the time winter's first real snow fell on the Barrowlands, Brienne and Sansa had crossed 100 leagues of bog, forest, and hidden creek. Wolves shadowed them some nights. Silent gray guardians. At Maiden's Barrow they found refuge with clans of Flint and Norrie, harried folk who loathed Bolton Yo. Word spread. Stark, girl alive. Fires lit on hills to signal kin. When they rode from Barrow with 24 clansmen, Sansa wore quilted jacket, sword at hip. Brienne a cuirass pieced from scavenged plates hammered by clan smith. Behind them trotted ponies laden with salt pork, arrows fletched goose white. At dusk they reached ridge overlooking Winterfell's broken walls. Smoke spiraled from Great Hall. Banners of flayed man flapped above gate arch. Torches lined parapets. Ramsay's hunters. Sansa stared long. "Home," she whispered, tears freezing on lashes. "We take it back." Brienne surveyed walls, guard rotations, mind-forging assault. "At dawn," she said, "when east light blinds them. We are few, but surprise favors desperate." Sansa gripped sword hilt, and Ned Stark's ghost marches beside. Her smile was a scar across grief. Night deepened. Snow fell thicker, muffling world. In forest glade beyond moat, clans sharpened blades, stringed bows. Brienne knelt with Sansa before Hearttree, where red leaves rustled though no wind stirred. "I failed your mother," Brienne said. "You saved her daughter," Sansa replied. "That oath you kept." She placed hand on Brienne's wounded shoulder. "Tomorrow we keep another." Overhead a direwolf howled, mournful yet resolute. Echo carried across white fields to ramparts where Ramsay paced. He paused, listening, a shiver prickling his spine though fire roared. "Hear that reek?" he asked Ratchet Heel. "Winter's music. Wolves come to my feast." But somewhere beyond sight, in frost-heavy air, another howl answered. Deeper, older, call of pack not broken, only scattered, and on crimson-leafed boughs. Snowflakes melted like silver tears. And then, dawn broke red as flayed skin. Brienne led charge through breach and collapsed curtain wall, while Sansa loosed first arrow, shaft burying in sentry neck. Flint axes felled gate guards. Norrie slings shattered torch glass. Brienne vaulted rubble, Oathkeeper a blue blur, carving path toward Great Hall. Ramsay's hounds lunged. She split skulls, stepped over thrashing forms. Through smoke she saw Ramsay himself emerge, grin split too wide, sawing knife. They met upon carved stone of forecourt, where once Starks knelt to old gods. Snow swirled. Ramsay circled, blade flicking. "You fight for dead wolves," he taunted. "Their pelts warm my bed." Brienne answered with steel. Clash rang. Sparks hissed. Ramsay quick. Strikes like adder. Brienne patient. Parries stone solid. Knife kissed her vambrace. Scored. She riposted. Nicked cheek. Blood painted snow pink. Ramsay laughed. "Good. Pain sweetens night." He lunged faint low. Hook high. Brienne caught wrist. Twisted till bone popped. Knife dropped. She drove pommel into temple. Ramsay fell to knee but swept boot, unbalanced her. He scrambled for dropped blade. Claws closed on snow. Sansa stepped from archway, bow drawn. "Snow for snow," she said. Arrow aimed at bastard's heart. He froze, eyes wild. Brienne regained feet, sword poised. "Yield," Sansa demanded. Ramsay spat blood, grinning. "I yield to no bee." Arrow flew. Ramsay jerked, a shaft sprouted from chest above sigil of flayed man. Breath wheezed, grin fading like candle exhale. He sagged, eyes on snow-dusted sky. Brienne lowered sword. Silence descended. Clansmen secured walls. drove remaining Boltons fleeing into forests. By noon, direwolf banner rose again, tattered yet defiant, over Winterfell's cracked keep. Fires lit in broken hearths, ravens dispatched across north. In crypts below, Sansa knelt by father's tomb, touch tracing stone likeness. "We come home," she whispered. "Forgive the blood that bought return." Brienne stood vigil at stairs, bruised yet unbowed. She felt weight of new oath settle like cloak, shield of Lady of Winterfell, sword of North's rebirth. But beyond storm-blown horizon, Red Woman resurrected rode toward twins, justice in skeletal hand. And south, Lannister gold greased quills, forging decrees naming Bolton true lord still. War's end proved mirage, fresh thunder rolled. Winter conquered land. Yet in heart of snows, two women forged iron out of trauma. Blade and banner poised to carve future none could unwrite. Far above wall, ravens gathered in swirling black cloud, their cries lost to wind. One by one they turned south, dark tide flowing toward fires still burning in halls of men, to witness next verse of endless song. And somewhere in Riverlands, as dusk bled, Lady Stoneheart lifted noose-scarred chin, whispered name of traitor Frey to silent trees, and the wind carried promise of retribution northward. Promise the north now stirred to meet. The tale, though drenched in grief, marched on under stars distant and cold, guided by vows too stubborn to die, by hearts reborn of loss. And so 5 hours became lifetime. 60,000 words a mere footstep on road not yet done. For Winter's story had only begun to howl,